Fellow sufferers, this is the last time you'll be hearing from me for a while. I appreciate the interest people have shown on the site. I could not in my wildest dreams have imagined how many hits it has had. It's hard to believe, but in one day it had 1,000 hits. What does all this mean? Well, for starters, there are now thousands of people who now know the pitiful state of racing in England. They will have heard things which are true, which they would not have read in newspapers or heard on racing channels. Because the newspapers and racing channels have to look after their advertisers. In other words, they are compromised in what they can say. Does it mean that these articles will change racing in England? I have serious doubts. But at least they will be documented for all time. Not like 1992, when I wasted 12 months of my life trying to educate those mugs involved at a higher level in racing. Everything I said in 1992 has come through, but now, conveniently, it has been forgotten. And by the way, I read in some newspaper or magazine the other day where Michael Owen, brilliant footballer, family man, young family, is building a racehorse training establishment. I can't believe it. I cannot think of a quicker way to burn his money. Does he not realise when you buy a racehorse, you lose on average 80% of your money overnight? And that same remark applies to all these footballers who are getting easy money now and then investing in racing. They'll do their brains. We have to draw a conclusion to the previous articles. So I'd like to summarise it as follows. Number one of the chief culprits who have been responsible for the demise of racing in the British Isles, namely the Jockey Club, has sailed off into the sunset, leaving behind a great sport on its knees, with the vultures swooping lower all the time. But of course in the background, the Jockey Club have had a right touch. They have got their hands on all the best race courses in the country. It's a pity they didn't display the same business initiative when they were representing the sport. Number two conclusion. The main culprits are the big bookmakers who have used racing to establish themselves, while all the racing authorities were asleep. They have chewed all the meat and are now in the process of spitting out the bones. This is typical of the big bookmakers. Newmarket is the headquarters of racing in England. Ladbrokes have a number of shops in Newmarket. They are pictured for you as I speak. These pictures were taken on Friday the 14th of September, one day before the Ladbrokes sponsored St. Leger. Do you have to be Einstein to figure out what interest Ladbrokes have in racing? Please note Mr. Card and Mr. Roy. Play poker here. Say no more. Ladbrokes' half-year profits in 2007 were 195 million. It's hard to believe. I've asked the question, who is running British racing? Is there anyone with more influence than the CEO of Ladbrokes? Would you please send your answers on the back of a first-class stamp? Make it first class. Then the race courses. I'll be brief about them. All they're interested and all that's on their minds is making money. Betfair were the greatest thing for racing for 40 years when they started, because it provided the unique opportunity to have a reasonable bet at the prices available. you have to remember, at that time, the big bookmakers were only interested in recycling the gold money. Just couldn't have a bet with them. However, as I said when I first came to this country, that the big bookmakers were manipulating the weak on-course market for the benefit of the betting shops, it is now clear to me that they are doing the same on the exchanges. Now, this to my mind is wrong, and I cannot understand why it is tolerated. I would be the first person to get into serious trouble if I practiced the market manipulation that the big bookmakers get away with on a daily basis. I just want to ask this simple question. Would it be wrong of me to do the same as the big bookmakers are doing? Their motive for their manipulation is purely their self-interest and profit. Is my self-interest not allowed to be as important as theirs? Tell me, is that right or wrong? As I'm running out of time, a few other organizations that need to be sort of answered, or my thoughts on them. First of all, the Trainers Federation, useless. The Jockeys Association, useless. The ROA, useless. They have led us into the valley of death. You know, anyone contributing money to the above organizations over the last 20 years should sue for their money back. Institutionalized incompetence. Close, I must say something about Zabi Palace. Hopefully Grant's suitable. He runs a Goodwood Wednesday. Everything I said at the inquiry has come through. It has taken me months to get it back on the race course. Do I have to say any more? Final thought of the series, courtesy of Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has.